Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're live from Big Daddy Unlimited Studios, and we got a great show for you today. First topic on the agenda is President Trump is going to bring law and order back to Democratic-led cities. He is fed up with what's happening out in Portland, places like Chicago and Oakland and New York, and he's saying that if the local governments can't do something about it, from the city commissions and mayors to the governor, then by God, he's going to do something about it, and he's already started out in Portland, and we'll expand on that in just a moment. And then the teachers. You know, this whole thing, President Trump seems to be the only major leader that wants to get us back in school. Of course, there are others, but President Trump is leading the way to get our children back in school, and he's being fought by, among others, the teachers' unions. Imagine that. And we're going to talk a little bit about a story breaking out of Florida here, where the teachers' unions have sued the state of Florida, but this is going on nationwide, and so we'll expand it out, because it's happening in your neighborhood as well. And then hopefully we'll have time at Pelosi. Yes, good old Nancy Pelosi, old plastic face herself. She said on Morning Smo yesterday, Morning Joe, that when Donald Trump inevitably gets whipped, that they're going to have to fumigate him out of the White House. In other words, they have to pest control. They'll put the fumigation tent on the White House if necessary to get him out of there, man. Guess it makes my nose itch a little bit. Maybe she's going to do the meth tent like they did in Breaking Bad. Anyway, we're going on this story from The Hill about President Trump, and I like how they put this. President Trump threatens. He doesn't say, "Hey, I'm going to." He's got everything about President Trump is like over the top when they put him in these articles. He's attacking when he comments on something. When he says, "Hey, I'm going to bring the troops if they can't do it," it's a threat, you know, not just a promise, it's a threat. Trump threatens to double down on Portland and other major, the headline is actually wrong here, but this is how it's written. Trump threatens to double down on Portland in other major cities. That doesn't make any sense, but that's how it's written. You know, maybe we need to get back into school, some of these journalists, but top Democrats are demanding answers from the Trump administration on actions by federal law enforcement agents in Portland, Oregon, as President Trump doubles down with a vow to deploy federal police to U.S. cities. So the Dems are now defending the rioters. I mean, more and more we're seeing what an administration under Joe Biden would actually look like. I hope we get woke enough to really look at that, because Progresso World is coming to you. It's beyond just Bizarro World. It's Progresso World. So the feds who are trying, the federal police who are trying to protect federal property, i.e. a courthouse and the court complex out in Portland, are the issue. The people, the hoods wearing, the hoodlums setting fires, breaking into buildings, smashing up with bricks, they're the good guys, and the police are the bad guy. This is Progresso World. And it is coming to a neighborhood near you, if not your own home. So President Trump said, "I'm going to do something." Imagine that. He's going to do something. He said that I can tell you that I'm going to do something, because we're not going to let New York and Chicago and Philadelphia and Detroit and Baltimore and all of these. He said, and Oakland is a mess. Basically, every major city in the United States that is controlled by Democrats, which is pretty much all of them, is in one heck of a mess. There's varying degrees of crap happening, from the poop maps in San Francisco to literally burning the whatever down in Portland, Oregon, and beating up police in Chicago. And we're going to show you some crazy video from there in just a moment. But they are a mess. He's not. What do they say here, that he's acting like they're a mess, or he's saying they're a mess? No, they are a mess. Name me one city in America right now that you would feel, major city, especially those listed here, that you would feel safe walking in any of these zones where all this stuff is happening, probably anywhere really. But Democrats are vowing. Now they're not there. So I mean, is that stronger than a promise? They're vowing. Is that what they're doing when they're on their knees, vowing? Democrats are vowing to fight Trump, who has increasingly leaned into a law and order campaign theme this summer in his bid for re-election. Well, what other theme we need right now? Looting, rioting, and every man for himself? Do we need the jungle theme? Is that what we come to? Claiming his administration, talking about the president, has a history of mishandling protest and fanning tension. So the Democrats are claiming that President Trump's administration has a history of mishandling protests and fanning tensions. Mishandling protests. What protests are actually happening in the country right now? I haven't seen one lately. Because to me, a definition of a protest is people maybe marching around with some signs, peaceful, chanting, "We shall overcome," or something like that. I mean, that's a protest. When you're passing out the bricks instead of the signs, you have gone from protest to absolute riot. And it is just crazy, man. What are the Democrats actually fighting for? What are they standing up for? A brick for every window instead of a chicken in every pot, a brick for every window? Is that what the Democrats are vowing? I mean, it's just insane. But Progresso world, welcome to it. It's coming to you. And if we vote, let me just say you this right now. If we allow Biden to become the next president, the 46th president of the United States, if we have a 46th president, Joe Biden, then we will be in Progresso world, and getting a brick upside the head will probably be the least of your worries, man. But so what are they actually fighting for? I want to show you something here. This is actually from several weeks ago in Chicago, but the video just got released. It's drone footage. What it is, I want to set it up for you so you don't miss anything. But there are Chicago police were trying to protect a statue of Christopher Columbus in a major park right in metropolitan Chicago, and they were under siege. Now, one of the new things we're starting to see is this umbrella attack. So the people will come up there with these umbrellas, and they basically put them forward like the shields, and then you can't see what's happening under these umbrellas, and all of a sudden rocks start flying and everything else. Check out in this video, and the news anchor points this out to you. There is a man that literally changes clothes rapid, like he's practiced it before, to all black. He's a white man, by the way, just saying. And he starts passing out bricks for people to throw at our blue line, America's finest, the police officers. Check this out. This is what the Democrats are fighting for. Look at it.
Hidden behind a wall of umbrella-carrying cohorts, he changes his clothes, and before it's over, he changes the tone of the night. Police cameras show his group providing extra projectiles for anyone to take and throw at police.
There's the sticks being thrown. At one point, you'll see one of the officers move over, an incendiary device or an explosive device blows up near his eye, and you can see him walk away holding his eye.
A group of vigilantes, people who came for a fight.
They fought with guerrilla tactics, turning the pipe in this defund CPD banner into a sharpened weapon Friday night, taking over the front line of the march, shifting it from peaceful to provoking.
Peaceful demonstrations have been hijacked by organized mobs. The vast majority of officers have been professional.
The police, though, did receive 20 civilian complaints from the Friday night event. That's according to the Civilian Office of Police Accountability.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just speak to people who may feel like they want to legitimately protest. And I'm not saying there aren't reasons to protest. I would debate you on some of that, but I think this point needs to be made. It's time to go home. It's enough. It's time to go home. That police officer there, and basically even the mayor, I have to agree with her. Very rare do I agree with Mayor Lightfoot of Chicago. But your movement has been hijacked. To whatever credibility there was in the George Floyd protest, is over. It needs to end. You need to go home, take care of your families, take care of your country, basically. Go back to work, all those kind of things. Because your movement to whatever credibility it has, and we can debate the credibility of it at another time, it is now being used, the George Floyd incident, which pretty much uniformly was blasted by people across the country. That has been hijacked by Black Lives Matter. Not that Black Lives don't matter, but the organization of Black Lives Matter, they have hijacked it along with Antifa and multiple other things, and it is now literally a treasonous war against the United States of America. When you start passing out bricks to attack police officers, even if they're in the wrong, and I'm not saying they are, but even if they're in the wrong, man, that is something that just cannot be stood for, cannot be allowed there. That cannot allow to be continued. It cannot be. And so President Trump is showing leadership. It may end up costing him the presidency. It might end up costing him that. But he cannot just stay home, stay in the White House, cowering in the corner. That is not President Trump. That is not the man we voted for. And he is, by God, not going to let that happen. And I love him for it. And I'm more willing to vote for him than ever. But the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, are we going to allow our country to literally be hijacked? Because make no mistake about it, when you're changing into all black clothes like that dude was and passing out bricks to pelt police officers, and I'm just going to say it, and the censors can get me or whatever, you don't give a damn about America. It's just that simple. You are the enemy, not only of the state, but of freedom-loving people really all over the world. Because if America goes down, how you think Hong Kong's going to fare? I mean, we are the leader of the free world, and they're trying to take us down. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she's always got something to say, said the House, now this is the Democrats. You want to know if you're voting for Joe Biden or you're not voting for Donald Trump, which is basically the same thing, then you are voting for the brick throwers because the Democrats are championing him. One thing about these progressives, I tell you all the time, just take them at their word. Here's what Pelosi had to say. The House is committed to moving swiftly to curb these egregious abuses of power. What she's talking about, and I'm not saying there might not be some abuses of power happening out in Portland with the feds out there. It could very well be. There's been complaints that people were arrested and not given Miranda rights. So I'm not even necessarily disputing that. But it is a chaotic scene out there. And if you're going to take a side, you better take a side of law and order, because these thugs out on the street, and that's what they are. It has nothing to do with race. It's thuggery. And thuggery in some sense is colorblind. And they don't care about America. Matter of fact, they're trying to destroy it. So she says the House is committed to moving swiftly to curb these egregious abuses of power. Welcome to Progresso world, where the brick throwers are the ones being aggrieved and the police officers getting hit in the head with the bricks are the problem. That's Progresso world, and they're trying to bring it to you. I hadn't said this since last week, but I'm going to say it now, because if I say it, it bears repeating. The Democratic mantra, if you will, for the 2020 election has really come down to this. I call it the America Sucks campaign. Basically, they're saying they want you to believe, black, white, they want everyone to have no pride, nothing but shame about our country. And I say this kind of jokingly, but at the same time, I'm pretty serious about it. Their new motto really should be this, because this is what they're campaigning on. America sucks. It's always sucked. It sucks for some more than others. And if you vote for us, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Ocasio-Cortez of the world, then we're going to make sure it sucks for everybody equally. That's what they want you to be. Democrats are pressing federal watchdogs to investigate the situation in Portland, where daily protests and demonstrations have been taking place for nearly 2 months. Now, keep in mind, they're not talking about investigating Antifa that is taking over parts of the city and burning parts of it down just in broad daylight. They went out and looted an Amazon store just this past Sunday afternoon. They're not talking about investigating that. They're talking about investigating police, federal police, and maybe even local police that are trying to stop that stuff from happening. That's who Nancy Pelosi is calling for an investigation of, man. We need to have an investigation of whether or not that she's being paid or paying Antifa. That's right. But let me just say this again. These are not protests. I don't see how you can look at the video, and we're going to show you some more footage in just a minute, but how you can look at that video of them passing out the bricks and having the umbrellas up front. Now, the news report on that one in Chicago makes it sound like, oh, it was peaceful, and then they passed out the bricks. And there may be some aspects of truth to that, but when the whole front line up there is carrying black umbrellas and putting them forward like a shield towards those police officers, then it's nefarious from the beginning. These are not protests. You have no constitutional right to throw a brick, okay? You don't. Democrat representative, and here's a list of who's who of the people that need to go. Democrat Representative Jerry Nadler, Benny Thomas of Mississippi, of course, Nadler's of New York, and Carolyn Maloney of New York, the chairs of the House Judiciary, Homeland Security, and Oversight and Reform Committees, all Democrats, of course, in a letter Sunday, urged Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz and Joseph Kafari, the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, to investigate whether federal law enforcement had violated the constitutional right of protesters. And my first question is, what protesters? I haven't seen any of you. I'm looking at the protesters over here. I haven't seen any protesters in about a month and a half. Have you? I mean, they're not. But as I say, you don't have a constitutional right to throw a brick. It just ain't. There is no. Show me in the Constitution where you have that right, man. And we've seen bricks aplenty. Progresso world is the brick is legal. Think about this. In Progresso world, throwing the bricks, that's not a problem for Democrats. That's like, oh, they're exercising their constitutional rights. But defending your own home, like the McCloskeys did, and they become heroes of mine. The McCloskeys, when they defended their own home against the mob, those people are the lawbreakers, using our inalienable right, our God-given right, the Second Amendment, to defend yourself. Think about this, and this goes beyond the United States of America. One of the most time-honored, accepted things is that as a human being, I don't care where you live, you have a right, and matter of fact, I would say a moral duty to defend yourself. We would not be here as a species if our ancestors that were coming out of the cave, as I tell you all the time, it's never safe to leave the cave, but our ancestors came out of the caves and they defended themselves. If someone in our long history, of your family, whoever you are, hadn't defended themselves at some point, guess who would not be here? You and me. But in Progresso world, the brick throwers are executing their constitutional rights, and the McCloskeys have been arrested. They actually filed charges against them yesterday. So think about this. They're defending their home against people who broke into their neighborhood, crashed their gate down. They didn't, and they say they've been charged with unlawful use of a firearm. They didn't shoot anybody. They didn't fire a shot. They just said, you're not coming up here. So they called the police. The police did not come. Well, Billy Bob tells me, if you hadn't said my psychic sidekick here, he's Billy Bob Bass. He keeps me straight here on the show. He says the police did come. He's got a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. But he says the police did come. I didn't think they came, Billy. He said, they did come about 2 weeks later to take their guns. So when they called the police to come defend them, they didn't show. They had to defend themselves, and the police finally came to take their guns. That is Progresso world. And if you love the Second Amendment and you want to defend your home, you better not put Joe Biden in there, because he's already said that Paco, his boy Beto O'Rourke, I call him Paco, is going to come for your guns, going to take your guns. Of course, Obama said to clingers, we're clinging to our guns and our Bibles out here. And you better cling to them both, because they want both of them. I mean, they're burning churches, for God's sakes, decapitating statues of Jesus. You think they care about you? And they're doing that? I don't think they care about color whatsoever. They want you to die, man. That's what's happening. It's just crazy. It's Progresso world, and it is coming to you. They're going to bring it right home. It don't matter where you live. You could be living in inner city, or you could be living somewhere in Idaho on a farm. They still going to come for you at some point. They always do. Progressives never stop. They carry it to the extreme. and you think you're shielded from this, you're not. Federal officials have said they are seeking to protect federal property in Portland, pointing to vandalism, including a recent attempt by protesters to burn a federal courthouse. I'm going to show you this video right now. It's a little grainy and it's at night, but then they go into this. I think the second part of it is they actually are inside, and it doesn't really show this, or it doesn't say this, but I want you to understand where they're in an office and they're looting the office. That office is the federal courthouse. Now, this is why President Trump sent federal agents out there, because these are the people who are peacefully protesting, mostly peacefully protesting, and shouldn't be handled. They have a constitutional right, according to Nancy Pelosi and Ted Wheeler, the mayor of Portland out there. These people have a constitutional right to go into a... Well, let's just play the video, and you tell me what right they have. Play it.
This is what we do. This is what we do. Everybody out! Get out! Let's get back up.
There you go. That's good enough. Think about it. It's like they're playing their own version of some kind of video game. There's two pieces of audio. If you go back and check this out, we won't replay it right now, but it'll be posted up on our Facebook site. But at the beginning, you hear them say, burn that S down, burn that thing, burn it down. So they're chanting, burn it down. They go in, and towards the end of that video, and it really is telling, you hear one of the looters, one of the criminals, and that's what they are. They're not protesting. That's nothing to do with George Floyd. Zero. It has nothing to do with any life mattering, let alone Black Lives Matter. But you hear one of the people saying, this is what we do. This is what we do. That would be a sad ad, would it not, for the Democratic Party? Because that's who they're supporting. Make no mistake about it. The choice, we hear this all the time in election, the choice has never been clear. And let me just tell you, that statement may be overhyped in some cases, but not this. The choice has never been clearer in my lifetime. Because that's what the Democrats do. That's who they're supporting. Make no mistake about it. Those people you see in that courthouse are the armed wing of the Democratic Party. Now, people used to say that about the Tea Party. They're like the armed wing of the Republican Party. I'll tell you right now, give me the Tea Party, because you didn't even have to have people clean up the park after the Tea Party had a protest. They cleaned up. The park was actually cleaner when they left than when they came in there. But these people, this is what we do. Burn. Let me tell you, do any of those people look like they would give a tinker's hoot about you regardless of what color you were? Really? I mean, and that, if I'm just going to, I got to tell it like it is. If you vote for Joe Biden or you don't vote for Donald Trump, which is the same thing, you're voting for that to be everywhere. And that's what they're trying to do. It is a sad ad for the Democratic Party, but it's a truth. You want to fact check? Fact check. That's a fact check right there. Democrats are signaling they are ready to take action on Capitol Hill. Really? So they're going to take some action. And this is what Steny Hoyer, the majority leader of the House, said. I think there needs to be congressional response. You know what he's talking about? He's not talking about congressional response to those people saying, let's burn it down. This is what they do. He's saying there needs to be congressional response against President Trump for sending federal agents to put a stop to that, what we just saw, to put a stop to the bricks throwing at the police officers in Chicago. President Trump is trying to stop that, and Steny Hoyer is saying we need congressional action to stop Donald Trump. There needs to be action in the House, all right, or on the House. There needs to be action by you. the American people. You need to send a clarion call. I've been talking about, Trump 2020 and everything else, and I'm with you, man. I'm with you. We need Trump 2020. But what we really need, and I used to never talk like this, man. I'm an easygoing, happy-go-lucky guy. One of the things that's hard right now about me, I try to be seriously entertaining. I want to have a lot of fun with the show, but it's not a lot of fun if you're telling the truth right now, because the truth is pretty ugly at this moment. But I got to do it. Here's the thing. We need a punishing election. We need to not only reelect Donald Trump, but we need to stand up as Americans and send a clarion call, a clear sign that enough is enough, and put all of these people out, these Democrats. We need to take the House back in a big way, increase in the Senate, and Donald Trump needs to win in that landslide. So many people. We need to send a message to the media that this is, by God, our country, and we're not letting you take it from us. And I know people say, that's you're doing some kind of bird whistle, bird call, or something racist. No, what I'm putting a call to is to American people. If you love freedom, if you realize that regardless of the faults that we have as a nation, and we have had, and we do have many, because you know why? Because we're people, and human beings fall short of the glory. There's a book out there somewhere that you might ought to read occasionally that says something to the effect that we all fall short of the glory. And Americans do all the time. But this is the best experiment on freedom we've ever had. If you want a real shot at true freedom, you better rise up and stand up, man. But we need to take action. That action needs to be taken in November. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler and other officials, that Ted Wheeler, man, I've been on him for over a year. He is a piece of work. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler and other officials in Oregon argue the federal forces are creating a backlash that will create more unrest. So the problem is not the hoodlums that have been up there for going on 60 days now in the mid-50s. That's not the issue. The issue is Donald Trump trying to stop it. That's the issue. And I love and listen to this paragraph from Mr. Wheeler. He is a wheeler squealer dealer right now. I mean, he needs to be in deliverance. Make him squeal, wheeler, squealer. That'd be, if you deliverance, some of y'all might not get that reference, but some of you will. There was a Ned Beatty. We could have a Ted Wheeler. Maybe he could play the Ned Beatty role. Before the federal troops got here, this is Mayor Wheeler. This is your leader, Portland. Before the federal troops got here, violence was way down. Vandalism was way down. Our local and state law enforcement officials had contained the situation. They burned a police union building before the feds ever got there, by the way. And what happened instead, Mr. Wheeler said, the federal troops came in. They know federal troops, a federal law enforcement, and the whole thing blew up again like a powder keg. So this is very important. I'm going to take a sip here, and I'm John Martin, not Dean Martin, so it's not what you might think. But I want to make a strong point here. He's saying violence is way down, or was way down. Didn't say it ended. It was just down. Vandalism was down. Guys, you can only burn a building so many times. But here's the thing. There you have it. Listen to what he's saying. Take these progressives out of the word, because what he's talking about is controlled violence. It's a political tactic of controlled violence. Does it sound familiar? Tyrants all across the world throughout history have used controlled violence, the mob, trying to control the mob to take over power. And wherever that happens, freedom dies. Everywhere, from Rome to Nazi Germany and everything in between. Controlled violence has been used by political operatives for years. And that's what's happening right here. I'm telling you right now. Our choice, ladies and gentlemen, is a simple one, but may not be easy. Our choice is, are we going to get, like the left says, woke? Are we going to wake up from our long slumber? Because I believe, I'm more convinced than ever, that we, the American people as a whole, have been in a slumber since World War II, especially. And we won a great victory there, the greatest generation, all that kind of stuff. The greatest generation before them were probably the founding fathers. But we won a great victory, and we've been fat and happy. Does that mean everybody? No, but in general, our country has been fat and happy since World War II, and we've forgotten that there's always a price for freedom. Freedom has never, ever been free. But we have forgotten that. You can vote your way into socialism if you want, i.e. Joe Biden. But mark my words, every time you have to shoot your way out. There's only one way to go. So we have a choice. We can rise up. We can get off of our knees, off of our butts, off of our backs, and stand up as one nation under God and stand for this great country, the United States of America. I'm telling you right now, if Joe Biden wins, and this is not about Joe Biden, because he is a tabula rasa, as I say, a blank slate. That's why they love him. The power behind the throne is the likes of Bernie Sanders, Ocasio-Cortez, communist people, and that's where their soldiers are out there. Antifa, fascist communist organization, Black Lives Matter, the actual organization, Marxist. That's what's happening. This has nothing to do with George Floyd, has nothing to do with police brutality. Like the woman said in Chicago, their movement has been hijacked, and a black man said the same thing. It's absolutely true. The question is, what we going to do? All right, let me check my time. We're doing okay here. Got a story out of the Washington Post, and it centers around Florida, but it could be anywhere USA because this is happening everywhere. Donald Trump has stirred a hornet's nest because he wants the schools to reopen. Imagine that. He wants your children to go to school, and he is being fought over that by the teachers union. Florida Teachers Union sues over return to in-person classes as debate over school during the pandemic intensifies. Florida's largest teachers union sued top state officials Monday, basically the governor and secretary of education, over an order mandating a return of in-person schooling, drawing courts into an increasingly politicized nationwide debate over when and how kids can return to class amid the coronavirus pandemic. So I got a question. I've heard this asked before. I haven't mentioned it on the show. And first of all, I do come from a long line of school teachers. Both my mother, my aunt, both my grandparents on my mother's side, teachers. So I've been in and around teachers unions, all that kind of stuff. But they always got paid to do what? Teach. So now they're getting paid not to teach, kind of like the farmer getting paid not to plant tobacco. So is there a coincidence that they don't want to go back to work? I'm just saying. And here's the other question. Do I get my money back? I mean, my property taxes, a big chunk of them go to schools, and I'm not opposed to the public school system. I'm opposed to the way it's being run now and how they're basically indoctrinating children. But I think the public school system has the potential and did have the potential of making us the greatest nation that's ever been. So I'm not, someone who's advocating for all private schools. I do believe in school choice, but that's a whole nother issue. But do I get my money back? I mean, right here in Alachua County, where the home, Gainesville, Florida, not only do we get taxed for, this shows you how liberal we are here. Not only do we get taxed on our property taxes in Florida, that's how we don't have income tax. A good chunk of it goes to schools. But our citizens, I wasn't one of them, voted to tax ourselves again, another like 1 cent sales tax for more money for the schools, So I'm asking, if you're not going to have school for over a year now, I mean, they're closed now, they're not going to start again, do I get my money back? Because I'm not for paying people not to work myself. Teachers, no different. The suit from Florida Education Association, that's the teachers union, asked a judge to stop Governor Ron DeSantis. Let me tell you, we got one of the best governors, if not the best, in the United States of America, and maybe president one day. And Education Commissioner Richard Cochran, I know him as well, from requiring the return of in-person schooling without first reducing class sizes. We already have a constitutional amendment in Florida limiting class size to like 35, so that's not necessary. And ensuring that educators have adequate protective supplies. I'm all for that. It sounds good. But they just don't want to go back to work. And they're using it for political. It is. The teachers union, by the way, and I've been involved in unions before. I was a construction worker and stuff like that. And I'm sad to report this. The teachers union is the nastiest, is one of the nastiest, if not the nastiest of all the unions. There's nothing they won't do. I can tell you from behind the scenes, I've been there, the construction workers, the union, like electricians, pipe fitters, stuff like that, they don't like the teachers. And the police don't either. And the teachers union don't like the police, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. What to do about schooling has long been one of the thorniest dilemmas posed by coronavirus. Excuse me. In part, I had a woman cough in a mask. I got to tell this story real quick. Over the weekend when I was going fishing, I had a woman at a truck stop I stopped at. She coughed in her mask, turned her head, and then she looked at me and says, "I'm not contagious." And I said, "Ma'am, I figured the whole world's contagious right now. So, whatever." Anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. But in part because science about the disease, talking about the dilemma of opening schools, spread among children and from children to adults is not yet developed enough to draw firm conclusions. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not entirely accurate. After Trump tweeted 2 weeks ago that schools must open in the fall, the issue has often been consumed by partisan bickering. Let me just tell you, there's more science behind opening schools and children and infection rates and adults catching it from children and past. There's more science, study, and research that shows that it's not that big a deal to open the schools. In fact, we should. And there's also science behind, not shutting down and everything else. There's more science behind all of that than there is about mandatory masks. And I'm not even saying don't wear a mask. I think it should be choice. I agree with President Trump that it should be people, the facts out there, and people should have freedom of choice. Assess your own risk. It's never been safe to come out of the cave. But this has been totally politicized. The opening in schools is nothing but politics. And the teachers are right in the center of that. If you doubt me, all you have to do is look out to LA. Everything starts in California, and I expect the teachers in Florida to do the same thing. The LA Teachers Union out there said they would not go back to school until the police were defunded. Now, what does that have to do with coronavirus safety? You could be pro-police defunding. It don't make much sense to me, but you could be for. But how are the two connected? How can you look at the American people in the eye and say, we're not going back to teaching until the police get defunded? That tells you all you need to know. This whole thing is a progresso world on steroids, and they're trying to bring it to you. Get used to this, the irrationality, because if we go into progresso world, which we're already about halfway there, we'll be full bore if Joe Biden wins. But, think about this. Maybe President Trump needs to learn a lesson from this. Maybe when it comes, if he wants, maybe he should do Bizarro World like on a Seinfeld episode. If he wants the schools to open, maybe he should have just come out adamantly opposed to it and said, by God, if the last thing I do is that schools will not open come the fall. If he said that, the schools probably open right now. I mean, that's how crazy Trump derangement syndrome is. But ladies and gentlemen, we got a choice. We got a choice. Are we going to wake up? Are we going to come out of our slumber? Are we going to see what's really happening? Are we going to get back? Are we going to invest the blood of patriots into the tree of liberty, like Thomas Jefferson said? Are we going to listen to Benjamin Franklin, and when he was asked what they gave us, he said, a republic, if you could keep it, implies we have to do some work. You can have all the faith you want, but there's a book out there that says something about faith without works is dead. I have a lot of faith. We need to get to work. That's what we need to do. Are you going to listen to Patrick Henry in his famous Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death and read it a little bit more of his clip there where he's actually talking about enough? I feel a responsibility. I'm telling you, we got to man the political ramparts, because if we don't, we're going to have to man the real ones again. We only got a few minutes left, just enough time to get into this. Yeah, so it's not enough just to vote him out. We got to poison the dude, man. Put the big tent on there over the White House. I guess it's already been in rainbow colors under Obama, so a tent, no big deal. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi warned that President Trump should be prepared to be fumigated out of the White House if he refuses to leave. Well, good news, Nancy. There's good news in that. Your office should probably be okay whenever you leave. Because from what I understand, bugs don't eat a lot of plastic, and she is plastic. The worry about getting out of something is Nancy Pelosi. Because let me tell you, man, if the Democrats actually win, you know who's going to be the next Speaker of the House? Probably Ocasio-Cortez, and Nancy Pelosi is going to be packing her bags, and they're going to have to worry about that. But she said on Morning Joe, talking about President Trump, we'll close with this, whether he knows it yet or not, he will be leaving. Just because he might not want to move out of the White House doesn't mean we won't have to inauguration ceremony to inaugurate, and this is rich now, to inaugurate a duly elected president of the United States when she's been trying to oust the duly elected president of the United States before he was even inaugurated. Let me ask you, Nancy, if I have a chance to ask you a question, I would ask you this. Will you go on record right now and say you will accept a Donald Trump victory? You know, that's a question no one asked. They never ask. They always, Trump, he ain't going to leave the White House. Did they ever ask the obvious follow-up question to that? Will you accept the victory? Because that, to me, is actually a more legitimate question, considering that they never once accepted Donald Trump's actual victory. So will they accept 2020 victory of Donald Trump? Because this is what I want to see happen. I want to have that wave election, that punishing election, so that we can go from Donald Trump unhinged, he's unworthy, unhinged, all that kind of stuff, to being Trump unleashed, baby. That's what we need, a Donald Trump for 4 more years, unleashed, unshackled, America first, make America great again. That's what we need, and that is up to me and you, whether that happens. Wake up, America. Slumber time, nap time is over. Hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page, like it, and share it with others. Support us by going to our sponsors link. You can see that in the Facebook description. We have a sponsors link. And I tell you, we got one right now, Big Daddy Unlimited. If you care about the Second Amendment, if you're into guns, ammo, tactical stuff, anything remotely connected to the Second Amendment, check out our sponsors link. I think you will have a great time checking that out. I've enjoyed the show. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Let's all pray for this great nation. But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.